Materia Turo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So, according to the Prime Minister, the business of the Intelligence and Security Committee will be a lot less complicated without the Green Party asking pesky questions and challenging the status quo. Well, Mr. Speaker, I rest my case. John Key is quite right. National and Labour will be able to whip through the business of the committee with lightning speed without the Greens there attempting to provide the actual oversight that the committee is supposed to undertake. And that is precisely why it is so wrong to exclude us from its membership. By locking the Greens out, the two old parties have yet again colluded to entrench the powers of the Prime Minister and his spy agencies behind a facade of pretend accountability. As members of the committee, the Greens have done our very best to ensure that it is the watchdog it's supposed to be, rather than the lapdog that John Key and Andrew Little have now turned it into. If that complicated matters for the government, then tough. It was a very good thing for the rest of New Zealand. When we were members of the committee, the Green Party sought, among other things, an inquiry into John Key's appointment of Ian Fletcher as head of the GCSB, asked for an inquiry into Five Eyes, and was the only member of that committee to bother to submit questions to the financial review of the GCSB and the SAS. This is what effective oversight looks like. This is what the Old Boys Club has silenced. Now, no doubt, a major review of our spy agencies by the committee this year would have been more complicated, with the Greens there to ask questions about whether the spies or the Prime Minister actually need more intrusive powers. But that's what happens in a democracy. It's also true that it would have been easier for National to water down the RMA and to open up more areas of our pristine ocean for oil exploration without the Greens getting in the way with our pesky questions. It would have been much less complicated for National to gut the emissions trading scheme, to sell our laws to Sky City and Warner Brothers, to give tax cuts to the rich, if the Green Party was not there questioning whether any of these things were such a great idea. Yes, we scrutinise government decisions and we hold ministers to account. Yes, we come up with ideas like plans to feed hungry kids in this country. Yes, the Green Party gives voice to those who've asked us to speak for them. That is called democracy. That is called being the opposition, a role that Labour has abdicated on security matters. Since 1999, Labour has voted with National on security and intelligence legislation 83% of the time. 83% of the time, National and Labour agree on increasing powers of intrusion and surveillance. The club, sir, is too cosy. The history of the 20th century has shown that our democracies are made better, they are made stronger by the actions of people who stand up and question the authority of governments. Kate Shepherd showed us this. Kate Shepherd drove Richard Seddon nuts with her pesky insistence that women participate in the Old Boys Club that was the parliamentary democracy of the day. Seddon said of Kate Shepherd that, and I quote, "She did not have the training which fitted her to a man's equal." But she presented petition after pesky petition, calling for the right of women to vote. She made things more complicated, and in doing so, she made New Zealand better. Kate Shepherd helped improve our democracy by asserting the right of all women to play a part in it. She didn't make it better by keeping quiet. If anything, Mr. Speaker, this whole debacle shows the need for a full and independent review of New Zealand's spy agencies. This has been the Green Party position for many years, and we are not the only one. The Dominion Post today described the Intelligence and Security Committee as, and I quote, "a constitutional monstrosity being led by the Prime Minister, who has great powers to restrict its investigations." The Dominion Post went on to say that what is needed is a proper select committee to replace it. And we agree. The ISC committee is also a constitutional anachronism, one that reflects the old days of first past the post and neither the reality nor the intentions of MMP. The real solution is for this committee to be established as a regular select committee of Parliament with real powers to inquire into the activities of the spy agencies and with all political parties playing a role. It absolutely should not be the responsible minister, until recently the Prime Minister, as the chair of the committee. Members of the select committee would have skills, understanding, expertise, not as intelligence experts, but as political representatives doing their democratic duty to hold those with the highest powers to the highest standards. And that, sir, is what is missing here. Not only has Labor chosen to lock out the obvious second opposition party from membership of the committee, but John Key has also turned his back on the long-held convention to have other government parties represented as well. The membership of this hugely important committee has never been so closed at a time when concern over the powers of spy agencies has never been greater. Historically, under other Prime Ministers, there were always at least two other parties, other than National and Labor, represented on the committee. In choosing wider representation, those leaders, including, I might add, Helen Clark, acknowledged the constitutional gravity of the committee's role. Somehow, under National, and sadly with the endorsement of our friends in Labor, this grave responsibility has been reduced down to the need to get a meeting over and done with in 5 minutes. I've made it clear, sir, that my concerns are not just about the process of nominations. The committee will be a better watchdog with us on it. Better still, it would be better if it was a genuine representative select committee, and that remains the Greens' preferred position. Some have suggested that the way this has been handled doesn't bode well for a future Labor-Green government. Quite to the contrary, sir. It shows that for those New Zealanders who are concerned about Labor's approach to security and intelligence, Mr Shearer, shows that those New Zealanders who are concerned about Labor's approach to security and intelligence, among the other matters where we have disagreement, a bigger Green Party is needed to help steer a future progressive government on a better course. It's always been our view that we have an agree to disagree approach with Labor and a mutual respect for those differences. Clearly, this is one of those issues where we disagree. Mr Speaker, I would like to finish by suggesting that we all be aware of the truism in our democracy that the longer a government is in power, the less questions it wants asked about how it exercises that power. Kate Shepherd knew this, but she asked the questions anyway. She made things very complicated for the government of the day and showed us just what a little peskiness can achieve. Thank you, Mr Speaker.